Good evening, my fellow sunblazers and heroes. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Losing a child doesn't just break your heart, it breaks your identity. Because one day you are a mother, you are needed. You know exactly who you are, and the next, you're sitting in a reality that doesn't make sense, and you don't recognize yourself anymore. And nobody talks about that, folks. They tell you to be strong. They tell you time will heal, but they don't tell you you're going to have to rebuild your body. Your body and yourself all over again from the ground up. Today's conversation is about that identity collapse and what it really takes to come back from it. Welcome, like I said, and love to have you on here, my sunblazers and heroes. Welcome to the Rosie Lasher podcast, sponsored by Jeremy's Unity Flight. This is the space where we don't just talk about healing, we talk about rebuilding. Because when cancer took my son Jeremy, it didn't just break my heart, it broke my identity. There were months where, sorry, excuse me. How did this happen? I thought I canceled it. I thought I brought it down. Apologies. There were months where I didn't know who I was anymore, where the version of me that existed as his mother felt like she disappeared with him. And what I've learned on the other side of that is that healing is not about going back. It's about becoming someone new with intention. Today's episode is part of our East Meets West series, where we bring together spiritual science and real human experience. Hold on a minute. Are we airing? Let me make sure we're airing, because let me see. That was are we let me make sure this is.
Hey, I was trying to tell you, you're breaking up and you're freezing.
I'm breaking up and I'm freezing.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't know. No. Everything looks good.
All right, great. Turn off. We can hear everything that we're talking about right now.
Okay, sorry. Let me hang up with it. All I can do is keep going and do the recording.
All right, keep going. You stop.
Okay. All right. Bye.
All right, bye.
I apologize, guys. It looks like I've been having a little bit of technical difficulties, but I'll continue on. Where we are bringing together spiritual science and real human experience to explore what transformation actually looks like. And today we are going deep. First of all, I want to do a somatic grounding with you guys. But before we bring in our guest, I want to ask you to do something with me, because you just heard something that might have landed somewhere real, and I don't want you to rush through this. Okay, so where you are right now, if you're driving, stay on the road. If you're walking, let your feet slow down just a little. If you're sitting, feel the weight of your body in your chair. Take a breath in through your nose. Hold it and let it out slowly. Do it again. One more time. This time, breathing whatever you're carrying today. And breathe out the need to carry it alone. You are here. That means something. That means everything. Now let's go deeper. My guest today is someone I apologize, is someone I need to be honest with you about. He is not just a guest. He is not just a colleague. He is my professor. Right now, currently, I am in his divinity school program. I am not yet ordained. I am still becoming. And I think that's exactly why this conversation had to happen. Because I'm not interviewing someone from the other side of transformation. I'm talking to my teacher while I'm still in the middle of it. He is an ordained minister of over 30 years, a mental health professional who spent nearly 2 decades sitting with people in real life, not theory, a musician who has stood on the stages of the Grand Ole Opry and the Bluebird Cafe, the founder of the One Love Consciousness movement, and a self-proclaimed sincere fraud, which, if you know him, is actually the most honest thing anyone could say about themselves. He leads First Unity Spiritual Campus in St. Petersburg, Florida, and his work lives at the intersection of New Thought, Eastern philosophy, nervous system awareness, and plain old human experience. He's an amazing man. Please welcome to the Rosie Lasher podcast, Reverend Jon Scott. Let me bring you in, Reverend.
Hi, Rosie.
How you doing? How you doing, Reverend Jon?
I'm well. I'm honored by your invitation. Thank you.
I thank you. I'm sorry. I apparently been having a little bit of technical difficulty. And that was one of my friends calling me, telling me she wasn't hearing me well. But as we were talking, it got better. So I'm hoping everything goes well. Regardless, we got the recording. So if I have to, we'll figure it out. All right.
I know the world of live streaming, and it can be very finicky. So no worries. We're here. We're here now.
Thank you. All right. So let me ask you the first question, Reverend Jon. You've been ordained for over 30 years and spent 2 decades in mental health. Most people pick one lane. You pick both. Why?
Well, I mean, I knew at a very young age that I wanted to sincerely help people. I was raised in a fundamentalist, dogmatic, Pentecostal, evangelical Pentecostal family. And so we didn't really acknowledge the mental health aspect of the human. It was all about devils and demons. It was all about darkness and casting that darkness out. But there was something in me that was calling me to see the whole human and the divine intersection of the humanity and the divinity. I didn't know to call it that, though, at a very young age. And so the way I interpreted it early on was to just get up and sing and preach. And one of the things I noticed as a very young child, I mean, I was 3 and 4 years old being put up on folding chairs up on the platform with our dad to sing to people. And before I could really even say words well. And I noticed that people smiled or people cried. There was a nervous system response to the performance, if you will, right? So that sort of scratched that itch in me to be helpful to others. And then people would laugh. And I was kind of a funny kid, just goofy, a little weird, a little strange, a little different than most. And most people who know me, I know that's hard for them to believe, but I felt like in some way I was helping people even with the humor. And then as I grew up, about 10 years old, I felt the pull to platform what we called preaching back then, right? To sermonizing and pulpiteering. And so I told my dad I wanted to preach, and he was pastoring a church at the time. And I said, I want to preach tonight. And he said, okay. And I kind of remember seeing him look at my mom in the rearview mirror. He didn't know I saw them, but he kind of looked over at Mom, and she looked at him, and it was kind of like, yeah, he's going to chicken out. I mean, he's 10 years old. And sure enough, I did. I did not preach that night. But about 4 years later, after seriously like 4 years of going out in the woods, we lived on a property where our closest neighbors were cows. Growing up in Georgia, I tell people we lived so far out in the country, you had to drive toward town to hunt. So we lived very far out in the country. Cows were the closest, and squirrels, So but I spent like 4 years from 10 until 14, nearly every day out in the woods on a stump with my Bible sitting there. I wore that Bible out, and I wore those poor squirrels and rabbits out, and birds, preaching to them. I tell people, if birds and rabbits and squirrels and trees could be saved, I had a huge mega church full of saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost beings, right? Because I preached to them every day. And so, but at 14 years old, I did the same thing. I told my dad, I said, I want to preach tonight. And he kind of did. I vaguely remember him sort of doing the same look with my mother. And but our service on that evening was at 6:30, so we're on the way to church. And he asked me, he said, "So, hey, John, you're going to preach tonight?" And I said, "Yeah." And it really was kind of a shocking thing to him. I think he was surprised. And that was my first sermon at 14 years old. Well, that scratched a different itch, right? Because I was doing the music and doing the goofiness and the humor. And then you add the preaching aspect. And so now I'm doing all three of those. And those sort of became the trinity of my life for that time period. When I was 19 years old, I started pastoring my first church, or pestering my first church, depending on who you're talking to. And it was in the city of Milledgeville, in the state of Georgia. And Milledgeville, for many people, especially in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even the 80s and the early 90s, was really known for Central State Hospital. At one time, Central State Hospital was the largest mental institution in the world. And it was essentially the industry for Milledgeville, Georgia, which at that time was a population of maybe 35,000 people, and had at one time almost 20,000 clients or patients, at that time they were called, on the property of Central State Hospital, right? So population was like 35,000, but the population, and that didn't include obviously the folks that were at the hospital, but that was the population of the city and the county were taking care of those who were in the mental institution. I was 19 years old. They had greatly reduced Central State Hospital. I think probably when I first went to work there were maybe 4,000, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people who were there. But one of the ministers I had befriended said he was looking for essentially younger ministers and new blood to be on their chaplaincy team. And would I be interested? Well, I didn't know what the heck I was getting into, but I thought, yeah, let's give it a go. Why not? So before I knew it, I'd gone through orientation, and I was working part-time. I was full-time pastor working part-time at Central State Hospital. And I immediately was put to work with a population of people who were called criminally insane. So in other words, they had committed crimes as a result of their mental illness. And the range of mental illness was huge there. And it taught me so much and began to sort of just break me open. Because when I first went to work there, all the preachers I know were like, "Go get them, man, go cast the devil out of them, get them delivered." Ha! That was their approach to mental health healing. And instead, what happened was I began to meet a population of people who most of them had fully traumatized lives, the fragmentation of their minds and their nervous systems. And they loved me, and I loved them. And the only thing that stood between me and them was a really solid trauma. Okay. So I started to get this real deep, inclusive love for those folks there. And I really credit many of them, the patients and the clients there, I credit them with a lot of my unfolding awakening, my deconstruction of my own faith. And I have a deep honor in my soul for that time period. 15 plus years, ultimately, I worked for Central State Hospital, and they worked on me. and they helped me to expand. So sending nothing but love to all of those folks there. But why did I do it? Well, that was an itch I didn't even realize I had, to be able to walk along with people day in and day out through their process of healing was just a very powerful thing. And I'll close this up so I'm not too ultra long-winded on one question, with saying, I believe we've spent a massive amount of time in religion and in spiritual circles ignoring the nervous system of the human being. We are not just spiritual beings, and to say that is not minimizing it. We are spiritual beings having a human experience and expression. As temporary as it is, it's still a part of our cosmic journey. And it's important for us to recognize that and to not get rid of your humanity is not in the way. Your humanity is the way through which spirit expresses in the world. And a part of that process is learning how to bring heaven and earth together. And heaven's not in the sky in the sweet by and by, not, at least not in my personal belief system. Heaven is the divine function of life force, energy, the Holy Spirit, call it whatever you want. That is the life force, and merging that with our humanity. And that is calling us as a human race now to a higher level of what Carl Jung would have called individuation. And it's where we merge heaven and earth. Our divinity and our humanity are not here to fight each other or to dominate the other, but here to merge together perfectly.
Wow, I love that. I love that. You hear that, guys? We need to merge heaven and earth. I love that, Pastor John, Reverend John. You call yourself a sincere fraud. I love that. But tell my Sun Blazers and Heroes, what do you mean by that? Because I think it's actually the most courageous thing any spiritual leader has ever said. I love that. Go ahead.
Well, I have to be completely transparent, as sincere of a fraud as I am. that really, those two words being put together are some of my influence from Alan Watts. And Alan Watts is a great philosopher who once used, I think he said genuine rather than sincere. But when I call myself a sincere fraud, I'm basically saying that, Rosie, because I'm saying I've stopped pretending that I have life or have spirituality or any of this figured out. But I'm still going to show up fully to live it. Does that make sense? So a fraud, the fraud part for me is really simple. It's every identity that we wear is in some way a construct, right? Pastor, reverend, teacher, guru, husband, leader, father, even the version of me I think I am, it's still a role. It's a story. It's a costume. It's a mask, if you will. What used to be called a persona years and years and years ago, decades ago, was actually a clay mask that they used in theater. And the clay mask would be put over the face of a person so that they would be masquerading and looking like a character. And built into the mask was essentially a voice amplifier so that their voice could be heard at the back of the theater. And that was what the persona was. And that mask was not the real person. It was a character. It was a role. So we, in many ways, have put on a persona and forgot that the mask is not us. So I've just remembered that. And so it's the costume that I'm using in this life right now. But the sincere part for me is it's at the heart really is that I'm not hiding behind the role anymore. And I'm not trying to convince you or anyone else that I've arrived anywhere, because there's nowhere to arrive at. And I'm not selling certainty that I don't actually have. And that's the sincere part is I'm showing up honestly. I'm showing up curiously. I'm choosing to be present. And so, yeah, I'll stand on a stage. I'll write books. I'll come on a podcast. I'll say things that sound like I may know something, but at the same time, I know this even more than the stuff I may sound very convinced of. I'm still unfolding. I'm still discovering. I'm still being surprised. In fact, I get the hell surprised out of me all of the time. I mean, thankfully, maybe it makes more room for heaven when that happens. But I'm being surprised by life all the time. And so if being a fraud means that I'm playing a role in this human experience, fine. But I'm going to play it sincerely. And I'm choosing to recognize that the mask is not me, and no performance pretending to be truth. I'm just a human being, and I'm aware that I'm a human being. And that's what I mean by being a sincere fraud.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, God. Thank you, Reverend John.
Yeah.
So every week at the church, when I listen to your live streaming, I hear something that has become part of me.
Hmm.
Love is who I am. Gratitude is my attitude. Abundance is my nature. And well being is my birthright. I understand you created that. Can you tell us a little more about the mantra, where it came from, and why those words?
I can't lay claim for creating it. It really just came through, almost a channeling of sorts, one Sunday morning. Actually, this at the end of this month, we will have been in this area for 4 years, and this that came through kind of the fall after we arrived. We started being the spiritual leadership at First Unity Spiritual Campus in June 4 years ago. And in the fall of that year, I don't know what I was given a message about something, and that rolled out of my mouth. And then really became my mantra. I think it was the mantra of my soul the whole time, but the words formed. So the essence was there, the energy was there. And that's really what I want the motto of my life to be. Okay. So I'll go through that. Love is who I am. I don't want to just love and to be loved. I believe at the core of our being, we are love itself. It's really John 4:8, where in the Bible, the Christian Bible, the Christian New Testament, where John, who was known as the disciple Jesus loved, said, God is love. And I believe that we are inseparable from God, even though religion has done a very good job of trying to separate us from God because of our activity, our behavior. The truth is that you can't be separate from God because God is life. And if you were separate from God, you would cease to exist. So there's no separation except for in the mind or a mindset or a belief system. So love is who I am is really coming back to my origin. That's who I am originally. That's who you are originally. You are not an original sinner. You are not an original sin. You are original blessing, and you are love. So love is who I am. And I'm making that declaration every day. Doesn't mean I always get it right. That's my point. Sincere fraud. I'm working to be love in action. And that would be really, I think, the meaning of compassion. But love is who I am. Gratitude is my attitude. This is the attitude that I am not just choosing today, but I'm cultivating day in and day out to remind myself on a regular basis that life, having the attitude of gratitude, really makes you understand you're already rich, you're already wealthy, you already have well-being, because when gratitude is your attitude, you literally begin to attract into your life the awareness of how blessed we really are. So gratitude is my attitude. Do I do it always? Sincere fraud? No, not always. Then the next one is abundance is by nature. This is what I believe about abundance. So far today, everybody who's tuned in, have you counted how many breaths you've taken today? Have you counted how many heartbeats have happened since you woke up while you were asleep? Have you been able to monitor and measure how many times and how many gallons of blood have circulated just through your forearm today? Okay. Sunlight. Even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. With a love like that, you can light up the whole sky. Abundance is natural. We just don't often believe it. And so abundance is my nature is just a reminder that, oh my gosh, the miracle that's happening at this very moment is that my lungs have not failed me, not even through the night while I slept. My lungs are still popping off up in here, right? Keeping me alive. Abundance is my nature. Well-being is my birthright. I believe that all of humanity and all of life, in fact, um, has the right to be well. And I understand, because I'll have people say, yeah, well, you can't just ignore what's happening in the world. No, I'm not ignoring it. I notice so much pain. You've experienced your own personal pain. So sometimes saying well-being is my birthright sure as heck doesn't feel like it sometimes. But does that change the reality in the grand scheme of things? That well-being is the intention of the Creator for all living beings. So I believe that has become the mantra of my life. It's essentially, in many ways, the core values that I choose to live by, to say on the daily, and I do say it on the daily: love is who I am, gratitude is my attitude, abundance is my nature, and well-being is my birthright. It's just a reminder to this sincere fraud to get back to the sincerity.
I love you. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend John. When someone loses, let me ask you another one. When someone loses a child,
Yeah,
or experiences any loss that breaks their identity, what is actually happening at the nervous system level with the soul and the nervous system?
well, first, I would say that it's important for your audience. It's important for you, important for me, to realize that a lot of times, going back to the sincere fraud thing, right? A lot of times we identify with things that are not actually us. And often that includes loved ones. And it's Mother's Day weekend, isn't it? It's
Yes.
even more close for some reason in this human experience. Most times it's even more close to a mother, right? Because there's that sense that you came from me, flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. The miracle of what a mother can do. I'm jealous, if you want to know the truth about it, often. I've had people talk about men being the strongest of the species, and I disagree. I've said for years that women are stronger than men. I can't see the first man getting through the first 5 minutes of contractions. Um, Women are strong and tough and just often not celebrated enough. And wow, that rhymed, and I'm a poet and didn't even know it. There we go. Okay. What happens is that the whole system gets shaken. When you lose a child, when a parent loses a child, the nervous system it's not just sad. It registers this as a profound shock, and it's a shock to the reality itself. And so on a biological level, I mean, the system, it goes into survival mode. Often mothers especially, fathers too, but mothers especially go into that system overload, and they feel like they're not thriving anymore. Many don't even feel like they're living, they're existing. The brain, especially the amygdala, actually fires off just like there's immediate danger. This is proven. When a parent loses a child, through proven studies, the amygdala is just firing off like there's danger imminent right now. So the cortisol levels and the adrenaline surges into the body. So the body is in a brace mode. And so when you're in that tense and that intensity, you actually there is a vexation of the whole being. You feel vexed. You feel pain in a way like you've never felt it before. But here's, I think, this is the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize, that grief like that, it doesn't move straight in a straight line for us. It doesn't come through the nervous system in a straight line, so you can't really measure it. It actually oscillates, and this is one of the reasons that Kubler-Ross discovered the stages of grief, but none of those happen as a 1, 2, 3, 4,
Right.
5, right? Depending on which one you read, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will happen. Sometimes the anger is superseding the depression. The depression sometimes comes out. Sometimes you get angry, you get depressed again. There's no one particular way. Everyone deals with it differently. One moment you feel like, intensely activated, panic, racing thoughts, tightness of the chest, pain in the body, tears flowing. Just once you move from laughter and happiness to pain and sadness,
Yeah.
inability to even catch your breath fully. in just a matter of moments. And then the next moment you feel like shutting down, numbness and disassociation and heaviness. It's hard, and it's hard to function while you're there. How long do we grieve? I've had people ask me this. People ask Ram Dass this, and I loved his answer. He said he would say to people, "Do you still feel like grieving?" And if they said yes, he said, "Then go and grieve some more. You'll know. You'll know when you've grieved and when you've completed that journey." I don't think, though, Rosie, we get over it. But I do think in some way, through the help of community and communion and yoga, the word yoga means union, union within our own self, that we can get through it. But I don't know that we get over it.
Right.
So any of you who are feeling that feeling of numbness, the back and forth, the up and down, believe me, life doesn't move in a straight line, and neither does death or grief.
Thank you. And guys, yeah, that's something I've found out myself. Yes, grief is not linear at all. It goes all over the place. Thank you.
And Rosie, I don't mean to interrupt, but this is one thing that I'm just now remembering, and I think I should at least say this. Grief is not a concept. It is a psychological imprint. Okay. So it's almost as if you have a tattoo, and I have a few of them. It's imprinted. And it's not something that just goes away. It actually bonds with your hormones. Sometimes it attaches to the neural pathways. It takes years to figure out how to co-regulate for some. I do think a meditation practice is very important. Of course, I believe that's vital to anything that we're relating to in this life. And I think it's important to start really recognizing this during your meditation time, that you are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. You are not your emotions. You have all of those, but you are not those thoughts, feelings, or emotions.
Wow. You hear that? You hear that, folks? You are not your thoughts, feelings, or emotions. Wow, that's powerful. Thank you, Reverend John. That is so true. There's a difference between healing and rebuilding. Most people talk about healing. You talk about something deeper. What's the difference, and why does it matter?
It's so I guess I think I would look at I would have to look at my own journey personally, if I could, to answer that question. Healing and rebuilding really are, in fact, two different things. And the healing process is natural. It's the natural occurrence of life. When life is allowed to move, healing is inevitable. The rebuilding, I think, is consciously making decisions. Okay, because I think that healing actually is just a natural unfolding that happens as we learn to surrender to the universe, to Father, Mother, God, however you view pure presence. That's going to be natural. It's kind of like this is the example I'll use because I think maybe it works for all of us. I broke my foot, okay, several years ago, and I broke it on the outside of the foot. Now it was not my hand. I'm just using the outside of my hand because my foot's not on camera. It was that portion of my foot, and out here on the outside of the foot, what they told me is that they thought they were going to have to put a pin in it because I broke it in 4 places, and it doesn't get a lot of circulation. Okay. Now ultimately they didn't do that. They chose to boot it and just give it time to heal, and it did heal. Albeit I did use some magnet therapy to help draw some blood there. And I don't know if it helped, but there was somebody offered that. I thought I'll give it a shot. Here's my point. When you break a bone, it's going to heal naturally because that's the body's response. However, the flexibility and the use may require PT, physical therapy. So when we talk about healing, healing is going to, I believe, is going to unfold naturally. And where some people may think they have not healed, maybe they've healed, but they may not have gone to PT. They may not have gone to psychological therapy. And I don't mean just therapy the way we see it in the Western world. The word therapy is the word that is used. It's therapon, I believe is how you say it in Greek. And it's the word for healing in the Christian New Testament. It's the word in Greek for healing. We may not have gone through that therapy process of rebuilding. And here's how I believe we do it. We stop identifying with the one that we lost. And what I mean by that is they are not you and you are not them. They are sovereign, independent agencyed divine beings who appeared in that role, and they are still connected to you. The veil between here and the other side is very thin, but it's being able to say that I have not really lost them, not really, not in the grand scheme, but they in their physical self, they have moved on to another iteration, and we can still reconnect energetically. There are many people who do that through channeling. Not everybody's into that. Some people think it's evil. If you do, don't do it for you. That's why when somebody said to me one time, they said, I don't believe in gay marriage. I said, then don't get gay married. So going further with that, the rebuilding process is really up to us. I've said this before about disease. If you get a diagnosis, look at the diagnosis, but you choose your prognosis or your progress. You decide, how is this going to progress? What am I going to do with what happened? To me, that's the difference in healing and rebuilding.
I love that, Reverend John. It's amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now I'm gonna go deep. Let me go over some of the comments because there's been a lot of things said. Incredible, a sincere fraud. Love it. Love who I am. So true. Yes. Here we go. And welcome. So,
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, my son, blessings and heroes. So let me ask you, Reverend John, I'm gonna get a little bit deep. Something you didn't know about, you're just finding out today, is that I had only been to your church twice. That was my second time. When Jeremy called me up on a Thursday telling me that he was going to have to go on hospice. And at the time, because of the situation, I was angry at God, I was angry at him, I was angry at everything. And my soul sister called me up, Susan, and told me, who you very well know, called me up and told me, Rosa, you got to come up here. You got to go to the meditation. It was the first time ever that you guys did, or that I know of, that you guys did it. And it was a drum and sound bath therapy meditation. And I had never been to one of those before. So I said, you know what? It couldn't hurt. Let me go. So I went up there. Reverend John, I swear to you, if it hadn't been for that meditation, I don't think I would have made it through that week of Jeremy being in hospice and having to be by him because I was so angry at him before that. But I went to that meditation, and that meditation regulated me enough. I came out of that meditation so much peace that it regulated me enough to be able to manage being next to him and being able to have as best I could with him that week. So what I want to ask you is, what was so powerful about those drums and sound bath meditation that it was able to regulate me to the point that I had such peace? What's your insight on that?
Well, Albert Einstein said that everything is energy. And if that's true, and science sure seems to think so, then at the core of everything, or at the baseline, the foundation of everything, is vibration. And life has a vibration. a syncopation, if you will, and the synchronicities in the syncopation. And, so our heart has a beat. Our brain waves have a beat. Drums tend to just bring rhythm into amplification. And so, Treasure Island is really noted on Sunday evenings here in our area on the Gulf
Right.
for drum circles. And there's a bunch of people with all kinds of different drums,
Right.
percussion, tambourines, you name it, sound bowls. We call him Love Joe, who's a part of our community, and he's a ball of love. I mean, he walks into a room and just as loud as he can, I love you, so he's going around the drum circle with his sound bowl. I saw a comment from Emmanuel Erna, who has just recently gone as the senior pastor at Temple of the Living God in St. Pete. Emmanuel and I have been friends for some time now. We walked along together. He's actually ordained with the Communion of Expanding Consciousness, which is an organization that I formed with Bishop D.E. Paulk about 15 years ago. And Emmanuel's really good with this. Emmanuel uses a variety of different sounds and tones. Probably the event you came to, Emmanuel may have been even the one doing it that night. But there are crystal bowls, and the bowls, all of these bowls have been tuned. If you see those around, folks, by the way, they've been tuned to what is called in the Hindu faith, and really in some portions of Buddhism, the chakra system, the sacral chakra, the root chakra, sacral chakra, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, and crown. And they're tuned to the sound of the natural flow of those particular channels and meridians within the body. So the reason it had an affect on you, the sound and the tone and the beat, is because it's just bringing you back to the experience of life, the tones, the tunes, the feeling of the vibration, because life is that. Again, citing Alan Watts. Alan Watts used to say all the time, he used to say, everything is moving. Even this table, and he would tap on a solid table, even this table is not solid. If you have the right looking device, you can look into this table and what you're going to see is, and, people will say life is just too much movement, but you want movement. You don't want flatline. If you have flatline, you're not alive. So this is all it is amplifying life. And then meditation for me is the best medication I have ever found to be able to go into the quiet. And we in the Western world, we really have a challenge with this because we have what I call an addiction to distraction reaction. We are constantly distracted by our phones, by TV, by a concert, by a movie. Right. We seem to have this real fear of being alone with our own selves. And most of the time it's because we don't even know who we are. Many of us live as imposters in our own life because we go around pretending to be who we think others expect us to be. And so we're imposters in our own life. Meditation helps you to return to the inner beingness, the truth of who you are, into the quiet and into the stillness. And I believe what you experienced was a vibrational healing that you don't even have to put your finger on it. I don't need to define it. Oh my God, I was refined by it. I don't need to be trying to define it. A lot of times we want to name these things. I think the experience is more important than the explanation. And so your experience is all you need to know, because we could explain and I could tell you why I think. And again, you asked me to, and so I did. Quite a long answer to the question, actually, but there's the sincere fraud again. But meditation, it gives the nervous system a way to be with the grief, to be with the feelings without being drowned by it. Meditation gives you the ability to approach yourself and to life gently. And it's a reminder that ultimately I am the ocean. Thoughts and feelings and the function and the dysfunction are the waves, but the waves are held by the ocean. The waves don't define the ocean. They are an out picturing action of the ocean. So this is what meditation does. It brings us back to the fullness. I like to say it this way, and then I promise I'll shut up. Meditation reminds me that I am the cloud, or I am the sky. I am not the cloud. Let me say that again so we don't trip that up. I am the sky. I am not the cloud. The cloud moves through. The sky hosts it, but the sky is not a hostage to it. The sky says that even the storm, the worst of storms, can happen, and the sky is still unharmed. There's a part of you that will never be harmed. This is why the Anahata heart chakra is actually called the one that is beyond harm. This is the heart, because people say my heart's been broken. Most of the time, it was not our heart that was broken. It was our expectation, is what we believed was going to happen. Suffering is caused by life occurring in a way that I think it shouldn't, and me being attached to the should. So meditation helps me to remind myself that I'm the sky. The clouds are the thoughts, the feelings, and the emotions. As the clouds move through, don't grasp them. Let them move through. Then you can be the host to everything and the hostage to no thing.
Oh, wow. My son Blazers and heroes, you hear that? Be a host to everything but a hostage to nothing. I love that. Wow, wow, wow. And meditation has been key with me. I've found that to be very helpful as well. Reverend John, you founded the One Love Conscious Movement. What does it mean to remember? I'm sorry, to remember you were never separate, especially when loss makes you feel more alone than you've ever
been. So, Ram Dass used to say this a lot, and he became very well known for this, that we're all just walking each other home, which essentially means that we're never alone, because we're all just walking each other home. It's just sometimes we forget. Sometimes we forget that we're one, that we're connected, that we are all a part. We all have the same origin. We often forget it. And so and this is what brings about dis-ease. Just so everyone knows, I'm a word nerd, right? So you'll hear me take words and sometimes twist them like pretzels, and that's okay because I like pretzels. But the word dis-ease to me just means disconnected from your ease, or my ease has been dissed or distanced. So when we believe we're separate, or we feel like we're separate, we feel the sensations of dis-ease. And then there comes the dysfunction, and then disassociation, followed by fragmentation. And is it really happening? No, it's the illusion, because you can't actually be separate from anything that life is. But if you believe you are, then you manifest that into your experience. So when we believe that we're separate from others, then we make others the other. We're seeing that happen right now, where there's this big push to give you a solid enemy so that we can codify our group. And because they've found that it's often easier to get people to unite around a common enemy than the common good. And that's unfortunate, because at the end of the day, there is no separation. I've heard people talk about borders and walls and immigrants and people that belong and people who don't. We live on a ball. So there's no actual borders except for the ones we believe are actually there. We live on a big ball. So there's no corner. I can't put you in the corner and section you off somewhere else. That's all just an illusion. And it's the disease of the belief that we're separate. There's no one that we're separate from. We are all one. We're all connected. I don't know if I answered the question. Oh, yeah. When someone departs this physical reality, this November will be a couple of years since my spiritual father Bishop Carlton Pearson transitioned from his human incarnation into his next iteration. I don't know what that is, but he visits with me regularly. He continues to be with me, period. He's a part of my life in this journey, always will be. And but at first I felt that sense of separation because my psychology and even my physiology as a result was missing his physical form. I wouldn't be able to hug him up close and kiss him on the cheek anymore. I wouldn't be able to smell the too much cologne that he wore. I wouldn't be able to hear his voice sing or hear him speak in that way anymore. So I was having that separation anxiety. That's all normal because in the physical, he was not here. So my physical is responding. In the psychological, he was not here. So my psychology was responding. But this is where meditation reminds us that we are not just the physical body. We're not just the psychological being. We are a spiritual being that actually is consciousness that encapsulates all of the other. And then I'm here to heal that by reminding it that I'm not separate. So Bishop Pearson is still with me. He's still with me, and he's still with us all. Your son is still with you in so many beautiful ways. And in those moments of grief, reminding yourself, yeah, he may not be here to touch physically, but energetically he's here to touch and always will be.
I hear you. Yes, I believe that too. And thank you for saying that, Reverend Jon. I do believe that strongly. You're also a musician, okay? And how does that incorporate with what you're doing with the ministry? How do you incorporate that with the ministry today?
Actually, music was my escape from a very young age. Music has been therapy for me most of my life. It's really never been work. Some of the things around it were work, but the actual singing of a song, playing of a song, writing of a song has never been work. It was, again, therapy for me. As a kid, I found that I could find solace in it. I could get away from things, even from people. People be all around me and I'm singing a song and I could lose myself in the song and I had to be around those people I didn't like or didn't know whether I liked them or not. Is it a part of, yeah, it's a big part of my ministry now in that I still, actually the floodgates have kind of opened and I've started writing songs again. I went through my own grieving process. A lot of people don't know this about me. Maybe some do because I grew up in a world where for some people, a group of people, I was the singer, P.S. I preach. And then for others, I was the preacher, P.S. I sing. And it depended on the group, but the group was kind of separated. When I went through my deconstruction, and I know that's a buzzword a lot of people hear, especially in evangelical Christianity, I left the pulpit for years. Because when I got badged a heretic and a false prophet in Middle Georgia, in the first two churches that I pastored over about a 9-year period between the two churches, I was going through my own transformation. I went through my own crisis of faith. And I tell people my crisis of faith led me to the Christness of my current faith. But during that time, in 2002 and 2003, in a year and a half's time, I divorced my first wife, Jesus, God, and the Bible all in the same year. And my whole life fell apart. You talk about identity crisis. I went through that, literally went through that. So by 2008, I found myself quasi-pastoring a church and leading a band in the biggest bar in that town at the same time. Talk about a sincere fraud. And what I was trying to do, seriously, was trying to migrate me making a living in ministry that I didn't really much believe in anymore toward music so I could take care of my family. So by 2010, I'm back and forth to Nashville, Tennessee. By 2011, I moved there full time. And we actually moved 3 families from the Middle Georgia area as a band together to Nashville, and we started touring. And that was the largest portion of my life from 2010 until 2017. It's a part of my life now because it's never going to go away. I get a chance to express that by playing guitar, singing songs at our church and in our church community. I go and play little gigs around town, which is fun. Scratch that itch. I get to play drums a few times a month, which is bringing the beat back. That was my first instrument, actually, that I learned how to play as a kid, about 4 years old. My poor parents. Um, how is it a part of me? I don't think it could ever not be. I hear life as a song.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I love listening to you sing and play at the church. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Rosie.
Reverend Jon, if you had to tell our listeners one action they could take right now to help with their healing journey, what would that be?
Notice and don't stop noticing that you are not your thoughts, you are not your feelings, and you are not your emotions. Then the next question often comes, then who am I? Great. Sit with that.
You hear that? Someplace in Heroes, that's pretty powerful. Really, really powerful. Remember, you are not your thoughts, your feelings, and and then ask who you are and sit in that and actually meditate that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Reverend Jon. It's been a blessing having you. Oh, I feel humbled. God
I
bless
do
you,
too.
and thank you. You've been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you,
I'm going to
Rosie.
put you backstage right now, and we'll be talking. All right.
Bless
Thank
you.
you. Before I let you guys go, I want to bring you back into your bodies. Reverend Jon, he brought up some powerful things that we all need to reflect back on. And meditation is huge. So I do want to guide you guys through somewhat of a breathing exercises to help you today. Take a deep breath in, count to 4, hold it, and release 8. Do it again. Through your nose, hold it, and release through your mouth. Place your hand on your heart. Feel it beat. That is evidence that you are still here, folks. Evidence that the story is not over, and evidence that becoming is still happening. You are not broken. You are not mid of becoming. You are becoming. And that is enough for today. I'd like to end with a closing prayer before we go. I want to pray because Lord, thank you. Thank you for Reverend Jon Scott, for his heart, his wisdom. He was willing to share with us today. Thank you for every Sunblazer and hero who showed up. You know exactly why they're here. Meet them right there. And God, I want to speak to the grieving parents, the ones who buried their child, the ones who still reach for their phone to text them. And then remember, the ones who smile in public and shatter in the car on the way home, who have been told time heals, but time just keeps moving. And the hole doesn't get smaller. It just gets quieter. I see you. God sees you. You are not broken. You are not failing at grief. You are a parent whose love had nowhere to go when they left. And that love is still alive. It didn't die with them. It lives in you. It is becoming something even now, even today. Your child's story didn't end, and neither did yours. Amen. Thank you for being here, my sunblazers and heroes. If today moved something in you, don't just listen to it. Do something with it, because transformation doesn't come from information, it comes from decision. Connect with Reverend Jon Scott. His Instagram's at Jon Scott _one love. His YouTube is at Reverend Jon Scott. His TikTok is at Reverend Jon Scott. Facebook is Reverend Jon Scott. And if you are ready to start rebuilding your identity with intention, with community, with science and soul, visit Jeremy's Unity Flight. Until next time, keep flying. And remember, your child's story didn't end, and neither did you. God bless and have a great evening. Thank you.